Hello and welcome back. Today we have a comparison video between the newly issued Genesis Nursery Cryme on Analogue Productions, Acoustic Sounds, and the vintage Pink Scroll, the first pressing. I just picked these two because I honestly believe that the Pink Scroll and the 1972 repress with the same stumpers is the best sounding, or was the best sounding copy so far. So let's get into it. And before we start, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and become part of our family. First of all, let's get the basics out of the way, right? This is the reissue with the hype stickers. The jacket is fantastic, really sturdy, right? Textured, very well done. It's a bit brighter than the original. Here's an original to compare. But all the same, it's fantastic. You wouldn't tell if you can compare it to the original. It's a double 45 RPM, 180 grams, and on the whole, I'm happy with my purchase. But there are a couple of things that I didn't like. Not a big thing, but still. Side three of the reissue has an edge warp. I realized the moment I dropped the stylus. But the running grooves are so wide, then there's no risk of damaging the record, so I'm not sending it back or get a replacement just because of that. No big deal. What I really didn't like was the label. They chose the pink scroll, but I'll show you. It's a bit darker than the original, right? It's a tad more reddish, still pink, but not, quite as bright and as colorful, right, as the original. I'll show you the original in a minute, and you can spot the difference, right? This one is clearly lighter. I think they could have done better. Right? They went through all the trouble of replicating the whole thing, and they did a great job. And just a basic thing like the label, I don't know. Well, that happens. Let's get into the sound, right? Which is what we were really here for. The moment I dropped the stylus on the musical box, I realized that it was apples and oranges. It's a different mastering, and comparisons must be based on this, right? What I must say that my first feeling, right, when I started listening to the musical box, is how very well crafted, technically speaking, the reissue is. Fantastic. The bass and the drums are perfectly centered. Keyboards, guitars, assorted instruments, left and right. Very well done. On the original, that's not so. It's not perfectly balanced. And the sound is raw and crunchy, whereas this one is a bit more polished, I should say. Still retaining full dynamics, full power, but it sounds a bit more modernized to my liking, but very well done indeed. I've already played it twice, and I've needle dropped this one. I already had a needle drop of the pink scroll to switch back and forth for the comparison. I'm going to break down the 7 songs, right? Because it's only 7 and it doesn't take long, right? I'll try to describe it to the best of my ability and keep it short, because I know people get bored with long vinyl reviews. as I said, the musical box sounded fantastic, as loud as the original, or even a bit louder than the original. Instruments are perfectly balanced, and something I was why I was looking forward to listening to this copy is Pete's voice, because if you've seen my previous video, I had the 2004 classic records, and good as it was, I didn't like Pete's voice, so I found it a bit recessed. Right, that's not the case here. The voice is okay, right? It's powerful. It's floating on the air, and you can tell Pete's voice right in the mix. Uh, by the end of the song, when we get to the crescendo, the now part, I think the original is a bit more powerful, right? Or at least to me. Maybe because I'm used to that kind of sound, and I'm not so used to the new reissue. But to me, it's partially more powerful than the reissue. But both are fantastically well done. Uh, Flipping to side two, for absent friends, the acoustic number is very detailed on the reissue. Acoustic guitars are so clear, and you can tell the voices, right? The different voices, right? Very, very clearly. Something you can't do on the original. They're both very close, but I think I'll give the edge to the reissue this time. The Return of the Giant Hogweed is very similar on both. To me, on the reissue is more powerful than the musical box. I think they did a better job with the Return of the Giant Hogweed, because it's really, really thunderous, right? Like in the original. And again, it's very well balanced and sounds absolutely fantastic. Now, moving on to the second record, I must say that side three, to me, is better on the reissue. Seven Stones was, or is to me, the weakest link on the album, and I think that's because every copy I've heard sounds so congested, right? It's all merged in such a way that it sounds muffled, and you can't clearly tell the different instruments, right, and how it was conceived. Whereas on the reissue is perfectly clear, instruments are very well separated, and you start enjoying this song. It's a similar case to the Battle of Epping Forest, right? On the Selling England by the Pound reissue, right? That benefited from the new copy, and Seven Stones as well. Harold the Barrel is very upbeat. They sound very close, but there's more instrument separation on this copy. Acoustic guitars and keyboards are more defined, clearer in the mix, and very, very enjoyable. I think that side three is the best of the four. And side four, Harlequin and the Phantom of Salmacis, are very well done as well. Harlequin, the acoustic number, sounds just as good as For Absent Friends. Phil's voice is very clear, and it even give me give me a little bit of goosebumps, because on the original you can't really, I mean, it's Phil, but you can't really notice his voice, right? Become very aware of his voice. Something you can do here. And the Phantom of Salmacis is amazing. The record ends on a very high note, on a very sweet note. A very well crafted job, right? Technically speaking, I find it difficult to improve on this. But of course, as I say, your mileage may vary. Trust your own ears, make your own decisions, don't follow into anyone's footsteps, not even mine, and decide for yourself. To wrap it up, I say that if you're based in the States, $60 plus shipping is a no-brainer. Elsewhere, if you have a near mint Pink Scroll or a Neon Mint repress, UK repress from 1972, well, your call, up to you, right? But I would still get this reissue, and if further on down the road you don't like it, you can always resell it and make a profit. Out of the three Genesis acoustic productions albums I've bought, this is my favorite. I like the Genesis sell in England, but the German first pressing holds its own. As you know, I didn't like the Lamb and eventually sold it. And I think this one, Nursery Cryme, is the one I'm going to play the most. I'm going to play both, this one and the Pink Scroll. I like both, and if you can get both masterings, but it'd be foolish, it'd be silly to let the reissue go. Right, and that's basically it. I tried to keep it short. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your time. Take care.